video is broadcast on LSL Podcast Channel. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the channel.
You are listening to The Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. I hope you've all watched my interview exclusive with Justice Thomas. It ran last night on the Ingraham Angle. Kids, do we have this posted on lauraingraham.com? Yes? Okay, so everybody's got to watch this interview. And why? Because there is not another person like him with his perspective, with his upbringing, growing up and still, frankly, the segregated South in a very poor community in Georgia, Pinpoint, Georgia, and becoming only the second African American to ever serve on the Supreme Court of the United States. The horrific nature in which a black conservative jurist was treated at the time. And he said at the time that this was a high-tech lynching. And we all know about the Anita Hill controversy and all of that. And it was a high-tech lynching. And looking back all these years now, 26 years ago, this happened. I'm more in awe of his spirit, of his humility, of his lack of bitterness, and his resolve to do his job, do it to the best of his ability, which is fantastic. He's really changed the court. Now even liberal legal scholars have to admit that he has his own jurisprudence, his own approach to the Constitution, not in the mold of Scalia, although they agreed on quite a few cases, especially toward the end, but a completely different approach to judging. We talked about that. We got into that. But imagine going through what he went through with the wolves were at him. A background check report, FBI background check report on him was leaked during his confirmation process. And when you go for a federal job, any federal job, they interview everybody who ever worked with you. They go back 20 years, your addresses, they go talk to neighbors. And what they do is when they interview people, they don't just take it as gospel because one person said something. Otherwise, anyone could deep six anyone's nomination. You say, oh, no, this person was horrible. This person was mean. This person said this. So they interview many people in that sphere to say, well, does this sound right to you? Or is this person said this? Is that the character of the man? And, of course, with this particular allegation, all the women who worked with Justice Thomas and when he was at the EEOC and the Education Department and at the D.C. Circuit, they just adored him. He was an incredible boss, incredible person. But one person, Anita Hill, who, by the way, kept inviting him to speak at her university where she was, I think, an adjunct professor after the supposed, bad conversation they had, which wasn't anyway. There was no corroboration of what she said. So the idea that you would leak that was only done for one person, one reason, character assassination, because he dared to think differently. As an African-American man, he dared to have a different set of views than the ruling liberal black elite in the United States. So they had to try to kill him off. He didn't buy into their worldview. He wasn't part of we need more affirmative action. We're going to be angry and bitter. We're going to play racial politics. That's not the cloth he's cut from. So when someone is different from you and challenges your orthodoxy, or seems to in just his very existence, the left believes have to kill him off. We're not going to just try to defeat him substantively on his judicial views or his philosophy. We want to destroy the person, and that is what they tried to do to him. Let's remember what he said all those years ago in 1991 during his confirmation hearings after a Democrat in the Senate or a staffer leaked this background check comment by Anita Hill.
I am a victim of this process. My name has been harmed. My integrity has been harmed. My character has been harmed. My family has been harmed. My friends have been harmed. There is nothing this committee, this body, or this country can do to give me my good name back. Nothing. I will not provide the rope for my own lynching or for further humiliation. No job is worth what I've been through. No job.
When we cut that clip, and I'd seen that so many times, obviously. I was already scheduled to clerk for him at the time on the D.C. Circuit, because I was clerking on the Second Circuit up in New York, and for Ralph Winter, and I had already accepted a job with Justice Thomas at that time because he was a judge on the D.C. Circuit. He was named Supreme Court Justice that summer. He was nominated by Bush in the summer of 1991. I just graduated from law school. Well, I'm watching this. I knew him since I was, I guess, interviewed him when I was 19 at the Dartmouth Review. So I knew him. I knew what kind of person he was. I was so enraged then, and I have to tell you, I'm just as enraged today, if not more. You know why? Because I don't like injustice. I don't like this character assassination game that people play. It was so unfair, and it was so based in the hatred of real diversity, intellectual diversity. So I followed up on that yesterday with Justice Thomas.
28 years ago, you went through the worst confirmation spectacle in history. Was it worth it?
You know, that's a good question. I think we are called to do certain things. In my youth, I thought I was called to be a priest. I thought that was my vocation. And I think there are jobs that perhaps and experiences that you wouldn't choose, but when you're called to do it. Now, think about it a second. When we do Wounded Warrior events, or we go up to do wreaths across America, what do you tell the widows, the families of the fallen, that you were too afraid to go through a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of difficulty to do a job like this when they actually were in harm's way? What do you tell the young man who's a double amputee because of war, that you were afraid to go through that? I don't think anyone would choose to go through unpleasantness, but if it has to be that to do what is right, then so be it.
I don't think there has been an interview that I've done in my 20 years in the media that I received more reaction from than this. For the last week or so, I've spent almost no time on social media. I've sent a few photos of interviews and so forth to staff to post, and I think I've maybe spent 7 or 8 minutes just quickly scrolling through Twitter or Facebook, but I just haven't spent any time. No time. I have no time to waste on social media. But people started texting me tweets. And my phone last night, 11 o'clock, bing, 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 ding, 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 ding. I've never, ever experienced the reaction to an interview, to a segment, not a radio segment in 16 years, not a television segment in 20 years, than I did for this interview. And I tried to think of why that was. Why was it? Why do people react to him with such... People are in awe of him after this interview. And I got so many texts from people saying, you should have kept him for the whole hour. And I was mad because I could have, frankly. They said, we want to hear more from men like Justice Thomas. Honor, duty, faith, country, sacrifice. These are themes that get very often short shrift in American society today. Or when you think of the word brave, you think of today in society, you're brave if you come out and you criticize President Trump. You're brave. Or you're brave if you come out as a transgender person. That's bravery is kind of described in those politically correct, usually left-wing terms. And occasionally about our military, of course. But I think when you watch this, if you haven't, you'll see a number of things and understand a number of things about the court, the role of the court in American society, the fact that life doesn't always give us exactly what we thought we would get or what we wanted even. But we are called to do certain things at certain times, and you just have to step up. And I was thinking all biblically last night, pick up your cross and carry it. I mean, if I were I look back on all those years ago, I'd probably said, stuff it. I don't want your nomination to the Supreme Court. If this is what it is, I don't want it. And I bet that went through his mind a couple times. I mean, you could pretty much read between the lines what he was saying. But he did it because he knew that President George H.W. Bush nominated him. It was important for the court. It was important for the country, despite the fact that 26 years later, he's still being dragged through the mud. Like he's dragged in the back of a pickup truck. The Old South, what they used to do to black people. And metaphorically, that's what they've done to him. Dragged him from the back of a pickup truck. Dragged him through the mud. Bruised up, battered up, unties a knot, and he walks on. But we just don't make many people like this anymore. We just don't. So I was really emotional. I mean, part of it is like I look back on my own life 25 years ago. I was a young 27-year-old clerking for Justice Thomas. I walked into the court for the first time. I was like, I'm the dumbest person at the court. These kids, all these other clerks were so smart. You know that feeling where I don't even belong here? Like, these people are much smarter than I am. And these were law geeks. I had kind of a common sense touch with the law, but these were really smart kids, all of them clerking for all the justices. And it's a nice fraternity of young lawyers. Most of the time, a year or so out of law school back then. A lot of times, clerks now are older, but back then we were all really young. So part of it was kind of looking back on, my youth and how different I was back then, and then seeing him and what a mentor he has become to, I think now 120 clerks, something like that. Am I getting the number right? 125 clerks, mentor. And he said, "You guys are my family." And I mean, he's the kind of person I would literally I would crawl across glass for him. That's the kind of friend he has been to me and to so many young people who go through a lot of difficulty, from parents dying to husbands dying to, failures in career, personal struggle. You could always pick up the phone and say, "Justice, I need to talk to you." Always makes time for you. And after we had concluded the interview, and I'll share more parts of it during the show, after we concluded the interview, the cameramen at Fox, all went up to him, and some of them are African-American, some not. And, of course, he spent so much time with them. Where are you from? Tell me about your family. There's not many people do that. They're in and out. Gotta go. Don't have time. He spent time with each individual who came up to him, talked a little bit about their family. Anyway. I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I enjoyed doing it. 855-40-LAURA. If you watched, what did you think? What was your takeaway from this interview? And we have a lot more to get to on the show, of course. We're going to talk to Senator Rand Paul. And this story that came out a couple days ago, meant to get to it, that 58% of Americans are afraid to express their political views because they are afraid of backlash in the workplace or beyond. We'll talk about it. You've heard me go on and on about my favorite game. It's called Say Anything. That's because it's so much fun. You just sit around the table and you ask a question, and everyone who's playing just starts talking, laughing, sharing stories. There's no complicated rules. It basically is just everyone sharing their opinions. I love it. Everyone in the family can play together because Say Anything is great for all ages. And when you play, you actually connect with people around the table. I've learned so many things about my family just playing the game, and I love it. Say Anything is the best party game we've ever played at the Ingraham household. It's a gift that brings families together. Remember, I'm not just talking about being around the table in the same room, but actually talking with each other, really connecting. You can get Say Anything at Target, and I've just heard that Target is running some kind of free game promotion. So if you buy a certain number of games, you get a game for free. So go to your local Target for all the details, because now might be a great time to get Say Anything for free. Everyone in the family can play together. Say Anything is great for all ages. That's Say Anything, available at Target. Say Anything. And I followed up by saying, I wish I'd known your grandfather. What a awesome person. He was pointing out there that it's easy to be resentful. Resentment is an easy emotion to conjure up. They have something, I don't have it, I want it, I'm going to take it. He's different from me, I want to destroy him, not have a conversation with him. Let's all lose the resentment, please. 855-40-LAURA. Facebook, assisting terrorism? With the holidays so close around the corner, you're probably starting to make those long gift lists. And look, you can stop now because it's time for Ovation Cell Therapy's holiday gift set, priced to save you almost 60%. You know what I did last night when I got home from the show? So I get home at like 11:22. Get home, I jump in the shower, I have all that makeup, got to take that off, take the mask off, as I say. And I used my Ovation Cell Therapy last night. It just feels good. It makes you feel good. Hair's all smooth and silky. You're going to love it. And the gift set, forget about it. It's like essentially 60% off the retail. And then you get several of them, give them to your friends. You will see their reaction. They're going to love all of these products from my friends at Ovation. All you need to do is go to ovationhair.com, select Laura Ingraham, the survey at checkout, and for you'll get the 60% savings. And then new customers, you get a special discount on top of that. Very cool. Ovationhair.com. And remember, new customer discount, you got to put that down as well. Get them while they last. The holiday gift set on sale now. You're listening to The Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. The president says we're far too politically correct. People are afraid to say something if they see something. We're now reading reports about the Saipov, the freak murderer Islamist in New York, who's still getting free health care, by the way, in the hospital, undoubtedly, recovering from his wounds. Saifullah Saipov wanted to have an ISIS flag hung in his room. That's all for, you know what that's for? He wants to get the insanity defense. He wants to claim that he's insane. This is all a setup for the insanity defense. As my mother used to say, mark my words. Mark my words. And so he's been called as angry and combative and aggressive. He was not happy with his life, said another friend. A 38-year-old from Stowe, Ohio, who worked as a truck driver, just as Saipov once did. This guy came to know Saipov and became familiar with just how, quote, provocative he was. Well, on the one hand, there are a lot of provocative people out there, and just because someone is aggressive about politics doesn't mean they're going to mow people down with a truck. So there is a balancing you have to do in your own mind. But I would just say, he looks like a Salafist, Islamist man. He's angry, and he has access to the internet. That's all we need to know, frankly, right now, that this is the type of person we should not be letting into the country. We don't know how radicalization always occurs. Sometimes it's with a twisted mind and a twisted understanding. All you need is some friends who want to blow people up on the internet. You hook up with them, and they egg you on, and then you're off to the races. Or you read something on a jihadist website. In just a moment, we're going to talk to someone who has some of his own provocative thoughts about what Facebook and other social media platforms are not doing to cut this conversation off by the terrorists. The terrorists seem to have free reign on the internet. Is that okay? I mean, you got to limit speech? Well, sometimes when it comes to this type of thing, how to make a bomb, how to aim a truck at a crowded venue, how to rent a truck to then take it out and kill people. It does seem that there are some things that do not constitute political speech that should be protected in the United States. And Facebook and Twitter, they're not government entities, so they can limit speech. I mean, I don't want them to limit real speech, but they're not the government. Only the government cannot prescribe restrictions on free speech in the United States. Tony, before we get to our guest on this, Tony, looks like 71% of Americans say political correctness has silenced discussions. It's Cato Institute has a big piece on this today, a couple days ago, and Justice Thomas spoke about this last night when he said, essentially, and I'm paraphrasing, that we're getting quite comfortable in our society limiting ideas. And he's talking about the robust exchange of ideas, not, obviously, terrorist speak. But what do you think about this?
Well, I tell you, I wear a Trump shirt every day for work. I got one on right now.
All right.
I've never, ever had anybody come up and give me any negative talk, attitude, or anything. In fact, I've actually had people come up and whisper, "Nice shirt. I like your shirt." No matter where I'm at,
I love that.
I have that.
Hey, I like your shirt. I'm afraid to speak out myself, but I agree with you. That happened before the election as well. Before the election, there were so many people who would come up to me in airports and, hey, I live in Boston, believe it or not, but I really like Trump, but I can't talk about it in the workplace. Can you imagine in workplaces, you're having lunch with a bunch of friends, Tony, and you can't mention the fact that you like Trump? You know what I'd say to that? Poppycock. I'd say something else if it weren't radio. You talk about what you believe in if the time is right for you. And you can be respectful of other people's opinions. That's you should be. But Donald Trump, in part, got elected because of his stance against political correctness. I said this in Billionaire at the Barricades. By the way, you must get this book and read my prescription for Trump's success in the future. How Trump can be a two-term president and win in a landslide. It's all in Billionaire at the Barricades. Go to your bookstore. I want you to go to Amazon today and order copies. You can bring them to your family and friends on Thanksgiving. Amazon.com. Go there today or local bookstore. Get this book. Because we got to spread the word and grow this movement. And I show you how to do that in Billionaire at the Barricades. I appreciate it. Eric Schiffer's with us now. And Eric is a security technology expert, and he's advised the State Department on how to combat terror online. He's chairman and CEO of the Patriot Group. Eric, it's good to talk to you. I saw these Facebook people in town last week, and they were talking about the Russian bots, and the bots did it. The bots elected Trump. That's what the left is saying. But they were explaining what they're going to do to limit the bots and identify the bots. And meanwhile, we still have things up on the internet about how to build a bomb.
We do, Laura. And it's very unfortunate. I went to Twitter just before going on, and I identified multiple instances of where there are ISIS supporters communicating. This is not being shut down. It's not aggressive enough. And the reason it's not being shut down to the nth degree that it should be is it doesn't generate profits. So really what this is about are for-profit entities that have benefited from this great country, that have created these companies that are mammoth in size because of the amazing country that we live in and the resources that are available to it, but they're not doing enough to protect the homeland and to protect Americans. And it's very unfortunate because these are the breeding grounds, and it's very real, where you have someone that is aggrieved, that is not psychologically set up in the right way, like a normal person. They're vulnerable to the types of messages that ISIS sends out. They're looking to belong to something bigger than themselves, and they're finding it online. The way ISIS is getting in, it's not through the border, it's through photons. It's through molecules via the internet. And they're getting right in to an apartment via someone that was able to get in through a diversity program, which to me makes no sense, and allows for these minds to be occupied and controlled in ways that are very sophisticated. The ISIS is like a media company now. They don't even need the media to get the message out. They have a global platform, and they use it incredibly well.
Well, the flip side of all of this is that once big mammoth corporations start limiting speech, and again, remember, they're not the government, so right. They don't need to abide by First Amendment concerns. However, once they start limiting speech, this speech is bad, then you start having, you turn around and suddenly conservatives are blocked on Twitter or Facebook. Because that's dangerous, but that could lead someone to go out and grab a 9mm and bring it to work because they're so angry. This conservative radio host is saying something that could trigger something in the mind of a returning veteran. And then they'll go out and spray someone with a assault-style weapon. You can see that's where it could go. Do you see my point, Eric?
I do understand the argument, and you do open yourselves up, or the country opens itself up to that occurring. However, I think that there is a way to constrain that argument as well, and we're talking about specific type of communication. It's largely it's coming from one source, and I think that you can position the argument so that it doesn't open things up to hurt conservatives and to begin to backfire. I'm a huge proponent of free speech, and I think the president is right that there's too much political correctness. At the same time, we're talking about an enemy that wants to wipe us out, okay? And the Constitution doesn't afford enemies of the state.
It's not a suicide pact,
exactly.
In other words.
100%.
Eric, can you explain to me, and again in layman's terms, because I'm sleep deprived and I need it simple. Okay, I'm just at the bottom, Eric. I'm a simple person. I like black and white on most issues. Sorry, it's just the way I am. But explain this dark web. I hear the dark web, and it sounds really scary. What is the dark web, and why is it that in the dark web they're able to pass identities that are stolen and sell cell phones that are untraceable and so forth?
Sure. Basically, the dark web is a portion of communication that happens between different systems, so essentially computer to computer, in which people can join, and it's a more limited form of what the Internet does. And when this is done, it's typically done in some form of secured fashion. So your communication can't be seen by most people. In fact, if you're using it in certain ways, it won't be seen at all. And that's the concern. That's the real big concern that's going to come down at some point, which is, and the battleground that I see ultimately happening, which is this ability for these terrorists to use these encrypted devices that can't be penetrated by law enforcement. And right now, we're not giving the FBI, Homeland Security, the tools they need to fully hunt down these killers. And the challenge is that so many that are proponents of and the argument about privacy want to take it to the nth degree and believe that there should be unlimited ability to communicate on an encrypted device, irrespective if there are killers out there that are using this to blow us up. And to me, I believe that, and I'm a big proponent of privacy, however, with limitations, okay? And enemies of the state are just that. Now, the technologists will say, well, there's no way to bifurcate. Mm-hmm. We can't split this in two. That we must, you can only have encryption or you can't have encryption, and I don't buy that. And I think there are many people now that recognize that there are ways to separate the two. And so this way it takes a place like the dark web and it shines light where it needs to be to hunt down the killers and ensure that our children are protected.
Right. Does Facebook or Twitter, they do take sites down. I know they do, and YouTube will remove videos that are grisly or beheading videos that go up or something. They do remove those. But are there instances that you see frequently where a jihadi will post something really dangerous, specifically dangerous, urging people to go out and kill or maim, that remains up for any period of time?
Typically, first of all, you do see that. Typically, the gross offenses like that are taken down fairly quickly.
So what isn't, very quickly, because we're almost out of time, what isn't taken down that they maintain needs to stay up?
Messages that are more amorphous, that are less direct, that are coded, and those are the problems. And that's where the Twitters and Facebooks are weak. They're not investing enough. They need to invest more. They need to bring actual people to the table in addition to algorithms. Algorithms, as smart as they may be, are still limited. There's nothing like a smart investigator to be on the front lines.
Eric, we're out of time. I'm sorry to interrupt you there, but this is really fascinating. I think I'm going to try to follow up on television. So we'll call you back and we'll try to arrange something for the Ingraham angle, because this topic is not going to go away. And I think Facebook, Twitter, etc., they have to be held accountable. And Congress has got to act at some point, if it's possible to do what Eric is saying, especially on the encryption issue. We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. The Washington Examiner and Drudge reporting that Americans are saying the dream is back. 82% have achieved or are on the way to achieving the American dream. They will hammer Trump for anything. They will come at him 24/7. This is really good news. And there's more good news coming. The trade deficit continues to go down, which is great for American exports, which means more good-paying American jobs. Consumer confidence is high. Unemployment is low. Now, happy times are here again. Well, happy times are could be here for a while. And that's fantastic. We need the American dream for Americans and legal immigrants, people who buy into our system, don't want to destroy it, don't come here to try to change us and have us become more like their country. That's not what America's about. We're supposed to be a melting pot. And we see with some of these people coming in on the diversity visa, they're melting us. Tonight on the Ingraham Angle, my interview with Donald Trump. Exclusive. DVR us at home. The Ingraham Angle, 10 p.m. Eastern Time. A little slap. Why is she putting an accent on? We raisin. Did she say we raisin them? What's she saying? What'd she say toward the end there, Jamesy? We raisin them.
And that's a we thing, because we raisin.
We raisin them. Well, she's at the Obama Foundation event yesterday. Was it in Chi-Town? Is it in Chicago? For someone who has gone to the fanciest schools and gotten this great education, Michelle Obama seems to, a lot of the time, be unhappy.
You know?
Like strong. She tries to get kind of down home, I think. Well, Obama does that himself, right? All right, Cleveland, let's hear it up. Let's give it up for Donna Brazile. All right, let's give it up, L.A. Wait, he's from Hawaii. What are you talking about? I hate people who put on accents or airs in any way, shape, or form. Drive me crazy. I have a question for all you women out there who have sons. Do you think boys have it easy? Have it easy? I go back all those years, probably 20 years ago, to Christina Hoff Sommers' book, The War Against Boys. I actually read books. The War Against Boys. She documented, and it's only gotten worse since this book came out, she's documented how boys today are getting short shrift in schools, from the percentage of time they're actually called on to the times they're asked if they need help, because there's such a politically correct move to help and rescue girls, that girls are catered to. Boys, not so much.
We raising them, you know?
Oh, no. A war against boys. No, not for Michelle Obama. The reason we have sexual assault in the United States is because boys or girls make boys feel entitled. This is cockamamie thinking. See, Michelle Obama doesn't really want to have the discussion of what's going on. Liberalism and the 1960s, the understanding of sexual norms and roles in our society was all turned upside down. Men should be more feminized and women should be more masculine. You compete for jobs with men in the workplace, not on the basis of whether or not you're better or you deserve it, but just because you're a woman. And the old gender norms went out the door. The idea of a two-parent family was kind of laughed at. I mean, it's not laughed at, that's an exaggeration, but you know what I'm saying. It's just two-parent family is no better than a three-parent family or a one-parent family. Well, there is a difference. Take it from me, a single mother. It is not the preferred way to raise a child. Sometimes you can raise great children, and I certainly hope to do so. But all things considered, two-parent households are better. And I will say that till I'm blue in the face as a single mother. And I admire greatly single women who are doing it because it is tough. Not easy. Even when you have money, it's not easy. It's humbling, as Justice Thomas said last night on the Ingraham Angle. I'll be interviewing President Trump for the Ingraham Angle tonight. Make sure to tune in. Don't want to miss it. They're in the final stages of pushing their tax reform legislation today. They're going to announce all the rates. Some of them have already come out. It's not exactly everything that Donald Trump wanted, but it might be the only thing they can get passed, and they got to pass it. Got to pass something. Get legislation to his desk. And of course, he's been criticized by MSNBC. They're just passing anything. No, they're actually trying to do work. So we'll talk about that as well with him, but you're not going to want to miss this interview. The full Justice Thomas interview is posted on lauraingraham.com and our Facebook page. You should follow us on Facebook. And of course, follow me at Ingram Angle as well. But the entire interview, you will watch it from beginning to end. It was, if I do say so myself, riveting, not because of me, but because of him. It's fantastic. But going back to this Michelle issue, we have more sound from her of what she said yesterday. Let's listen.
It's powerful to have strong men, but what does that strength mean? You know, does it mean respect? Does it mean responsibility? Does it mean compassion? Or are we protecting our men too much so they feel a little entitled and a little, a little self-righteous sometimes? But that's kind of on us too, as women and mothers. Yeah, as we nurture men and push girls to be perfect.
I love the interplay. There's a lot of Ivy League education to get the ums, the ahs, the the like, the knows, the cliche-ridden thinking. Are we responsible for men who sexually attack? Isn't that kind of blaming the victim? Could Michelle be blaming the victims here? It's our fault for making them feel entitled? Well, I would say this. There are probably a few good rules of thumb that we should encourage our daughters and our sons to abide by. Number one, don't ask a coworker to your hotel room or your underling to meet you in your hotel room, and if you are asked, do not go. That's one thing we could teach our sons and daughters. But again, she's missing the point here. We have a widespread fatherlessness problem in the country. It's not just Black America. It's in white America. It's in rural America, suburban America, and of course, urban America as well. We have a huge fatherlessness program. I keep saying problem in the United States. There are statistics that show us just how bad fatherlessness is. I think in Chicago alone, the number is up. What is that percentage? 60% of kids born out of wedlock? You can't even say out of wedlock anymore, right? You can't say that. Without a father in the home. In some neighborhoods in Chicago. You don't think that leads to a problem of violence and abuse? You're more likely to have these social pathologies if you do not have a father present in the home. Obviously, you do not want fathers who themselves are violent or addled with drug abuse and so forth. But fatherlessness is a huge problem. But remember, women were told in the 1960s and 1970s, you don't need men. You don't need men to get by. You can have children on your own. You can, well, yeah, you can. There's a lot of things you can do, but what's preferred? What is the best environment for children? So you raise boys who do, and I agree with Michelle Obama on this, who do respect women. Absolutely. She's right about that. We need boys who respect girls and girls who respect themselves enough to not give up their power so easily or so quickly. But Michelle was getting awfully close to it was almost kind of a white privilege area she was coming close to. I don't have the full remarks of Michelle Obama in front of me, but it was almost like she was straying toward that territory. Y'all should get some friends. Y'all should get some friends and talk to each other, because That's the other thing women do. We straighten each other out on some things, our girlfriends. Y'all should get some... Was she grew up in Alabama? I mean, y'all should get some... Did she have overalls on when she was saying this? They put on the accent. Why is she doing that?
And that's a we thing.
Oh. She believes men are entitled and that women protect them too much. Do you think that's the problem? Women protect men? I think in some cases, maybe that's true, but I think in most cases, especially the sexual harassment we're seeing today, it's not that women are protecting men. Women are afraid, probably afraid of losing a job. They're afraid of not getting a call back. They're afraid that no one will believe them. Yeah, but I don't think they're in it to protect men. I think they're just afraid of losing their jobs. In other cases, women do play the game and have played a game. They use their sexuality sometimes to get ahead. And then when things don't go their way, it's not pleasant. But there's no... my point here is in these situations where we have people making allegations 10, 20 years later, and a woman says, this is what he said to me, well, it's hard. That's a hard scenario. It's hard to prove. I mean, where do you go to get your good name back if you're a man and like, I didn't do anything? Or are we saying that never happens? No woman has ever made up an allegation about a man. Never happened? 855-40-LAURA. Mike, where are you calling from, Mike? Alaska, Arkansas? Can't tell. Where are you calling from?
Arkansas.
Okay.
Arkansas.
That's AR, kids, as a abbreviation. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Can't hear you, my friend. Mike just said that Michelle Obama is right about men being sheltered, but fails to make the point of how they got that way. Well, men might feel entitled because they get away with it. Yeah. But one strong woman who responds in real time to a man doing this can make a huge difference. Now, it takes courage. Yeah, you bet it does. And if you're 17 or 18 years old or even younger, I'm not putting anything on you. You're still a kid. And individuals should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. But if everybody knows about it, like Hollywood, so many people knew about Harvey Weinstein. They were joking about it on 30 Rock. They were joking about it. Was it at the Oscars, James? They were making a joke about...
It was Seth MacFarlane.
Okay, Seth MacFarlane.
Right.
So it was an open secret that Harvey Weinstein was a creep with women. Open secret. I heard about it in 1997. And I'm not even in that world. But I have friends who are. And I heard horrific stories. Horrific. So a man does feel entitled when there's a big cover-up. But don't just put it on women, because his brother was there, Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, this whole crowd, they all knew who Harvey Weinstein was, and do not tell me they didn't know. They all knew. But Harvey gave them opportunities. Harvey opened doors. Harvey put money in their bank accounts. Harvey made them famous. And a lot of people will trade their fame for principles. That's an age-old problem. And so we have to teach our kids there are certain things never worth compromising your principles on. I say this to my kids almost every day. At some point in the day, I say this. Once you give away your power, I say this to Maria, and once you give away your character or compromise your character, wow, you might never get it back. You might never get it back. That is you. Who you are is your character. And for young girls, you have a power that men don't have. Don't give it away. You give it away, you're compromising yourself. And I drill that into my kids every day. 855-40-LAURA. Michelle says men are entitled and women are protecting them. Don't go away.
I want to protect you. I want to protect you.
We protecting our men too much. So they feel a little entitled and a little, a little self-righteous.
Well, why wouldn't we want to do that?
Are you planning a vacation for the holiday season or perhaps next year's getaway? Well, if you're a timeshare owner, it's easier said than done. Listen, I know it. It's frustrating to be a timeshare owner. You pay all this money every year and you never get the dates or the locations you want. This needs to stop. Call my friends at resortrelease.com today at 855-66-LAURA. They'll make timeshares go away forever. Why pay for something you no longer want to use? ResortRelease.com will help you get out of that crooked contract legally and permanently. Give them a call now for a free review of your timeshare situation. They're Better Business Bureau accredited, A+ rated, and if you don't get out of that timeshare, you do not pay a penny, guaranteed. 2018's maintenance fees are due any day now, so get out now before you have to pay. Visit resortrelease.com or call them at 855-66-LAURA to see if you qualify. That's 855-66-LAURA. Call my friends at resortrelease.com today at 855-66-LAURA. All right, back on the Laura Ingraham Show. Let's go to Nathan in Pennsylvania, line 3. The War Against Boys. All those years after Christina Hoff Sommers wrote that book, Michelle's beating the drum. It's the boy. It's the boy. The boys are this. The boys are doing that. No, creeps in Hollywood are doing it. And some political people are doing it. And some men in Fortune 500 companies are doing it. Yeah. But it's not, women aren't protecting them. The entire gender understanding in the United States is being attacked daily. We're kicking God out of the schools. We kick God out of the schools. Honor and courage and all these ideas they're downplayed because they're too masculine. That's an outdated way of thinking about things. Let's go to Nathan very quickly.
Yes. My experience is having grown up that we're persecuted as predators, as nasty, horrible creatures, and we are not nurtured very well at all, but suspected of everything and anything at every turn. It's not a very, very friendly way to grow up.
I appreciate it, Nathan. This is what Christina Hoff Sommers said a few years back about the state of education and how boys are treated.
Boys have always struggled with school, but there has never been a time where it was more difficult for them because when they start as early as kindergarten or first grade, it's almost as if they exist in under a cloud of disapproval. And that's where you get these high suspension rates because there's just very little tolerance for male rambunctiousness.
I can tell you that from my own experience. Nico is all boy. He is all boy. Oh, no. He played zombie in art class the other day. Well, he wasn't supposed to. He put his both hands in red paint and then started going around the classroom. I think he got a demerit. Anyway, but he just likes to roll around. He's a typical boy. He needs like 5 recesses, Nico. And, that's discouraged. I mean, I don't want him to go around with zombie hands, but you see them. They want to have fun. Boys are different. And what we don't want to treat them as different. We want to treat them, everybody has to be a certain way. Well, maybe if boys go outside and roughhouse with each other and we don't break up every fight, don't break up every fight. They won't have a lot of extra aggression. Sometimes boys need to roll around on the dirt and kind of tussle with each other. And at the end, they have to shake hands and say, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. But you can't let a boy be a boy. And no, being a boy is not abusing a girl. No. But being a boy is to be sometimes aggressive in sports and with other boys on the playground. That's part of it. This has always been part of growing up. 855-40-LAURA. Well, Michelle talking about entitled men. Well, she is married to one, so. And I'll tell you why I think that when we come back. Barack Obama patting himself on the back yesterday. Well, who else will do it at this point when we have 82% of Americans saying now the American dream is back? I want you to go to lauraingraham.com, watch the interview with Justice Thomas, and tonight I'll be talking exclusively with the President of the United States on the Ingraham Angle. So going out with my family, getting to the studio, my goodness, I depend on my car just like you guys depend on yours. So let me ask you this, if your car broke down today, do you have the money in the bank account, and I mean real money, to pay for it? Or would you have to go into your 401k? I mean, some people it's that tight for a lot of people. My friends, I have an idea for you. Extended vehicle service protection from CarShield. Yeah, something like replacing your engine and cost you thousands of dollars, but you never expect it to happen to you. So get covered by CarShield. It's the ultimate in extended vehicle service protection. They cover practically everything. Your mechanical repairs, that computer. I want to go to a car without a computer, by the way. I want to go back and get my old 1968. I had a 1968 convertible that I got rid of. I wish I kept it. It was a beautiful car. Mercedes. 280 SL. I bought it when I had no money, too. I was such an idiot. But I should have kept it because it's worth like $100,000 now. What a fool I am. Anyway, but didn't have that computer. I like no computer, but the computer costs a lot of money. Anyway, go to carshield.com. You'll get 24/7 roadside or rental while yours is in the shop. You can call them at 800-CAR-6100. That's 800-CAR-6100. Use the code Laura, or visit carshield.com. Use the code Laura. You save 10%. Remember, a deductible may apply. That elderly American is having to pay $4,000 in out-of-pocket medical costs because of the work I did. Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment. But he has a really long left arm. You know, he's left-handed, Obama. He has a long left arm because he can pat himself on the back with it really well. 855-40-LAURA. It reminded me of his old soundbite during, I think it was during the nomination, where he got the nomination or accepted the nomination, or election night, Grant Park, when he was all praising himself for calming the oceans, and the clouds lifted because I was elected president. Oh, come on. You're listening to your Healthy Radio Addiction, 855-40-LAURA. Later on, we'll take your calls about Michelle Obama's comments that you all are men of privilege because women coddle you. Women are coddling men, which is why we have all these problems in the workplace, etc. We'll continue to take those calls. But joining us now, my friend, Senator Rand Paul from the great state of Kentucky, as we have still a divide in the Republican Party. And that's still, we've had it for some time, as I write in Billionaire at the Barricades. But what the resistance on the right has planned to resist the Trump agenda. The tax plan now is out. We'll get into that and a lot more. Senator, how are you?
Very good, Laura. Thanks for having me.
So are you excited about this new tax plan, and why should we be excited about it?
Well, you should, because the thing is if we want American jobs in our country to stay here and we want more of them, you got to lessen the punishment. We're punishing corporations and the workers of those corporations so much that companies are fleeing and going abroad. So we have the highest corporate income tax in the world. It's going down to 20%. President's been a good leader on this. He has pushed up until the last minute of the last hour last night. House leadership still trying to not give him the corporate tax cut he's asked for. But in the end, the blueprint that just came out looks like we are going to have an immediate cut to 20% in the corporate tax rate, and that's going to be huge. For the individuals, it's not as good as I would like. I would like to see every individual up and down get a lower rate, and particularly on the top part of the spectrum, because the top part of the spectrum pays most of the taxes.
Yeah, I'm getting
you
hammered.
Do not cut the top 1%. You don't really have a significant tax cut.
So you're saying it's not a significant tax cut then?
Well, it's not. What they've done is they've bought into the class warfare on the individual side. So at the top, there's not going to be much of a tax cut. There will be some. And in the middle, there's going to be a little bit. There's mostly going to be eliminating deductions. And at the bottom already don't pay much income tax and will continue not to pay much income tax. The best news out of this is lowering the corporate rate will help the country, and I think we will see growth. Already we're seeing about 3% growth in the country because of the enthusiasm for President Trump and his policies. I think we're going to get 4 or 5% growth if we get this thing through within a year or two.
Today on one of your favorite shows, Morning Joe, Dick Durbin was on with the gang, and he was complaining. Let's listen.
There is an element of political desperation here. Here we are at the end of the calendar year. I could count on one hand, maybe 3 fingers, what we've done substantively in the United States Senate during the course of this year.
What are they?
And so
what have you done?
No.
One
hand.
I'm dead serious.
I'm counting.
What is the major piece of legislation that has been passed this year?
The Department of Defense authorization bill, and I would add the Gorsuch nomination to the Supreme Court. Beyond that, you really have to stretch to find anything of substance that's happened.
Well, whose fault is that, Senator? If nothing of substance has happened, is it just the Republicans' fault, or we have some resistance? Isn't that hilarious?
I would say Dick Durbin may not exactly be an objective source of news, all right? I would say that there's a little bit of a slant there. To my mind, one of the most important things we did is we, for the first time in a generation, repealed federal government regulations, about 20 of them. which would have added a cost of over $60 billion to the economy. So, no, we have done some good things. And repeal the regulations, I would say, is number one. But really, number one for the long term was probably the appointment of Neil Gorsuch, which is awesome. And we're going to get the biggest tax cut that we have had in at least a generation, maybe since Reagan. So, no, those are all going to happen this year. And the Democrats are frustrated because they've been made peripheral. They are on the sidelines, and they have no power, and they're not willing to engage because they're not willing to vote for tax cuts or any kind of free market reforms or repeal of Obamacare.
The fact that we've had 3% growth for two successive quarters is in and of itself stunning. Remember, we didn't have that once during the Obama administration, all 8 years, and now we have it even without the repeal of Obamacare, which would have saved us, I guess, over 10 years, supposedly $800 billion. We don't have that savings. I think that would have helped growth as well. But nevertheless, that is exceedingly, I mean, that's just great news. And
well, I think what it is, I think it's based mostly on enthusiasm and comparing and contrasting Trump to a Clinton presidency. And so you remember when they were telling us, oh, Wall Street investors and the stock market, they want Hillary Clinton? Well, hell no, they don't. They never did. And when Trump was elected, this is mostly Trump enthusiasm. But when we get something real, which is a tax cut, in the next few weeks there's going to be a big tax cut, and we're going to say we are open for business. Come and locate in America. If you're a company thinking about leaving, think about staying because we've got lower rates, and you're going to see a lot of investment capital out there. You're going to see a lot of jobs created. And so if we're getting 3% growth based on enthusiasm, imagine what we're going to get when we get this tax cut through.
Rand, is there, I'm sorry, I'm calling you Rand because I've known you for so long. Senator, is there an added bracket for $1 million and up?
In the House version, it's looking that way, and I think that's a mistake. And it buys into class warfare. And the thing about it is we have to understand that the owners of our business, the people we work for, are richer than us. They pay more taxes. But if you lower their taxes, they will either buy stuff or hire more people. If you raise their taxes, it goes into the non-productive economy, which is Washington, D.C., and it'll be squandered. So really, even if rich people get a tax cut, we should all stand up and cheer because it means more jobs for us because you're leaving more money in the private sector. So I'm one of the few that will stand up on TV and say everybody's taxes should go down, including the wealthy.
Well, it seems like the wealthy could, in fact, pay more. When you look at the deductions that are going to be removed, done away with, and including the state tax deduction, that's a big one. Other business expensing might be changed. I guess is changed. There's actually a tax increase on the people who pay the most taxes.
Yeah, so I think you're exactly right, and that is potentially a problem. The people on the other side will say the corporate tax cut is so significant that we're going to get a spur of the economy. I think you will get increased growth from the corporate tax cut. I think on the individual side, it's not nearly as good as it could be, and I tried to make it better. I had an amendment to the budget bill that would have increased the tax cut from $1.5 trillion to $2.5. Then we could have had meaningful cuts on the individual side. I think we're going to at least break even on the individual side. Some people may get a reduction in taxes, but the only thing that's really, really of significance is the corporate tax cut, and I'm for it, so I'll be for the bill, but I'm still trying to make it as good as possible. The one thing I've been advocating the last couple of days, and there's some momentum on, is repealing the individual mandate. This was the Obamacare mandate that you have to buy insurance. It's seen as a $300 billion expenditure to government. If you get rid of that expenditure or that expense, that's $300 billion more you could cut in taxes. Then you could lower the rates for everybody, top, middle, and bottom, if you were to repeal the individual mandate, which is, by the way, something we promised and some Republicans have reneged on. But I'm pushing hard, and there's a little bit of enthusiasm. We had 10 or 15 people speak in favor of repealing the individual mandate in our Republican lunch yesterday. We had one or two naysayers, but there's momentum going forward, and I still hope that we'll include it in our bill.
Senator, going back to the Obamacare issue, the fact that the administration was not willing to give Iowa, and if you followed this story, Iowa the full waiver from Obamacare, the Obamacare issue, because they wanted to go full free market on health care, and the administration seemed to empathize with Iowa, but ultimately said you can't do this. Did you follow that?
Yeah, and part of the problem is what worries me about like these Graham Cassidy Obamacare Light programs is they say we're going to give people waivers, we're going to still spend all the Obamacare money, but then in reality, how good are the waivers? If even the Trump administration is hesitant on waivers, how good are they going to be? So I've been we ought to just do what we promised. Let's repeal the whole damn thing. And as a first start, we still have a chance in the tax bill. Let's repeal the individual mandate. And as the Obamacare continues to crumble, let's set up alternatives. And so I worked with the president for the last several months on letting associations buy insurance across state lines. And we think by next year, as this thing moves forward, that millions of people will be able to buy discounted insurance across state lines.
We're talking to Rand Paul here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Tonight, I'll be interviewing President Donald Trump on the Ingraham angle. It's an exclusive interview. It's the only interview he's doing before he leaves for Asia. Senator Paul, on this issue of the Republican divide, we have a couple of people who seem to be the go-to guests on liberal television to criticize the president. Yesterday, it was Corker and it was Flake again. Let's listen.
Is it too soon to go after Senator Schumer?
Yeah, I don't know that's the way you bring out the best in our country, but everybody has their ways, I guess.
What would you have liked to see the president do after, instead of that tweet against Schumer?
Well, I mean, express some solidarity with those who are trying to fix this program. I mean, or fix the situation. We shouldn't look for blame one day after like this.
Visa lottery, that's what they were talking about. Of course, Chuck Schumer has said many times how much it has helped New York. 50,000 visas given out for people who have absolutely no merit-based reason for entering the United States. Your reaction to that?
Well, there definitely is a divide in the Republican Party, and this is one of the reasons why I yesterday got involved in the Arizona race. You know, I'm supporting the conservative Kelly Ward out there.
Late to the game on that, Senator, but I still like you.
Hey, we're trying to tip the momentum towards her right now. We want it to be a clear, bright line between conservatives coalescing for Kelly Ward and the establishment's going to get in on the other side. They've attacked her before. They will spend millions of national GOP dollars against her. But conservatives are coalescing. I've been talking to people in Arizona. I think Kelly Ward, she's a physician, an outsider, not a career politician. I think she'll do a great job. And on the issue of the diversity visas, I think we should end them. I think we should have merit-based. And I also think that there are certain countries that are hotbeds of terrorism that really there just needs to be a virtual standstill with such extreme vetting that only people that we really are absolutely certain of can come from certain countries until we're positive that they have a handle on terrorism in their countries. And to me, it's sort of like admitting people from a war zone that are going to bring the battle to you. You really do have to be very careful about admitting people, but definitely it should be merit. We want people who will work, have sponsors. I also think that we should have more emphasis on the idea of family sponsorship. Somebody should be responsible for you. Someone should vouch for you.
Yeah, chain migration's a disaster. Though chain migration is a complete.
We got to get rid of that as well.
That is a nightmare.
There's all kinds of things. The president's right on this diversity thing. It's part of the problem.
Yeah, Rand Paul, I'm glad you've joined the Kelly Ward, endorsement list, and you're going to be an important voice. I campaigned for her, and a week later, Jeff Flake dropped out. It was great. We did a huge event for her, and then a week later, I told Jeff Flake to retire on stage, and I guess he was really listening. Rand Paul, great to have you on. We'll take a break. Stay with us.
The Laura Ingraham Show.
Florida on the Laura Ingraham Show, still reacting to Michelle Obama's kind of blaming women for, I guess, abusive men. Sean.
Hey, Laura, do you think that Michelle was thinking about Hillary Clinton when she was making those comments?
I don't think there's any love lost between Michelle and Hillary, but I think that's a funny rejoinder. I don't think Michelle is thinking all that much before she gets up there and speaks, because she doesn't really have to. She's a celebrity no matter what she says. And they're gonna praise Michelle no matter what she says. But the idea that women just out there in the workplace, they're protecting men, or mothers are protecting, I don't even understand her point. And men are entitled because everyone who knows what real abuse is, who sees it, they're not saying anything, men and women. And yeah, they feel entitled. If a woman shows up in a hotel room and walks into the bedroom of a hotel room late at night to meet a boss, that's probably not going to be a good thing to do. So maybe they do feel entitled, and they're not raised right. Good parenting, real fathers, a real example being set. You're listening to The Laura Ingraham Show. Remember, tune in to my interview tonight, exclusive with Donald Trump. You're not going to want to miss it.
And that's a we thing, because we're raising them, you know?